This episode is sponsored by Chapman and Company. Welcome to the Startup Spotlight series hosted by Mug.News. In this show, we highlight startups throughout Middle America who are supporting their community through diversity, innovation, and creativity. I am your host, Caitlin Clays, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's Spotlight. Welcome to the Startup Spotlight series, where we highlight impressive startups throughout the Midwest. Here with me today is Quincy Rose, the owner of Fox Crossing Scent Company, a women-led and eco-friendly candle and scent business. Quincy, thank you so much for coming onto the show today.
Hey, thanks so much, Caitlin. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit more about Fox Crossing Scent?
Yeah, so we actually got started sort of by accident. I don't know if you can see my sidekick over here, but I was actually pregnant with him in the early part of 2020, and I wanted something to do at home. I was just bored and wanted to try something new. So I was like, I'm going to learn how to make candles. So I just started for fun, and I knew I wanted to do more eco-friendly and healthier candles as well, so I started using beeswax. And then my best friend was like, you should sell these, and I was like, no. She's like, yeah. She's like, you really should. So I made a Facebook page, just expecting like friends and family to check it out and maybe buy one or two here and there, but it kind of like grew. So I do freelance web and brand design on the side, and so I built a website for the company, and it has just like blossomed from there, from the point of us making a candle inspired by one of our favorite bands and them regularly purchasing that candle, to actually being featured by Google in a female entrepreneur box they did, where they bought 250 custom candles from us. So we kind of have been everywhere, and we're continuing to grow and blossom into the company that we want to be. So yeah, that's kind of how we got started and where we are now.
That is so cool. I love that creative take on things. I didn't know about the Google and the other one. That's so cool. What would you say is your favorite? Do you have a favorite of the candles you make, scent-wise?
Okay. So the thing about our scents is that they are all inspired by the people, places, and moments we love the most. So they're completely unique to us and our brand. I work really hard to curate sort of like a nostalgia based scent. For example, like we have one called Camp Out, and it smells exactly like roasting marshmallows, like for s'mores by the campfire. Like it's exact, I promise you. I spent hours developing this. No. So honestly, I kind of have like a little portion of them that are all my favorite. We just released our fall collection on Friday. I think my favorite of the fall collection, he's trying to reach something he's not supposed to have. My favorite of the fall collection, I would probably say, is either Enchanted Forest or Pumpkin Patch. Pumpkin Patch is really cool because being, if you live in the Midwest, pumpkin patches are like a total thing here. And I kind of inspired it by like the fresh air spiciness of the pumpkin patch, but also the orange cream comes in, and that's what those little orange pumpkins that come in candy corn, it smells like those. So it kind of comes in together, and they smell it's a fall scent, and it's so clearly a fall scent, and everyone who sniffs it loves it. So that's probably my favorite right now. My favorite of all time is probably Afternoon Nap. It's very like clean and fresh. It's bamboo and linen, and it's one of my favorites too.
Oh my gosh, the way that you describe it too, I can almost like truly smell it. And that, like, I love candles. Like, it's such a thing for me. It's so therapeutic when you're working too, to just have it as the background. I don't know, something about it. I love candles. Yeah. So you're really painting a picture.
Yeah, for sure. And the other cool thing is that I exclusively use balsa wood wicks in my candles, so they crackle like a fire whenever they're lit. Because I choose balsa wood, and this goes into our sustainability culture. We want to be good for you and for Earth too. So we use balsa wood because A, it has a regrowth rate about the same as bamboo, so it grows really quickly. B, it requires less energy to grow and also to produce, so less energy than cotton, that is. And it's also better for you in general because a lot of cotton wicks can actually sneak lead into them. So super unhealthy. Yeah. And that's the main reason we use beeswax as well. Our beeswax is actually sourced from a apiary in California that has hundreds of acres of wildflowers and they support the natural bee population. So we love sustainability over here. It's kind of our thing. All of our vessels are completely reusable. We've got wood bowls, we have amber jars. And then I'm working on now where we're kind of doing a limited edition release of a small and large vessel for each new collection that we do. So that's something to definitely keep an eye out for as well.
Right. So speaking of that new collection, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but speaking of this fall and Halloween season, do you have any, whether that be like deals or upcoming scents, like, do you have anything seasonal related?
Yeah, so we just released our fall collection on Friday. We did two limited edition vessels. One is a small white pumpkin. It's about 4 ounces of wax, so it burns anywhere between 25, 30 hours. Beeswax has a longer burn time than most other waxes. Additionally, we did these adorable jack-o'-lantern ones that are like glass, and they're so cute. They both of those sizes actually sold out immediately. So I'm working on restocking those. Probably only going to be able to restock the jack-o'-lanterns, but definitely keep an eye on our Instagram for that, or our Facebook page. Both of those, we're super active on both. But the main thing that I always recommend checking out is our Facebook group. It's called Fox Crossing Scent Company Friends. That group, if you're in there, you actually have access to all of the new launches and sales and new products before everyone else, because I actually password protect the website, and then that's the only way you can get in. So that's the way to get in if you want something very specific. So highly recommend checking that out. Additionally, we will, of course, have some awesome things going on for Black Friday. So definitely check that out too.
100%. I will definitely be looking into that. I just, again, candles. Fantastic choice. So then with your small business and as you were getting started, what was it that you were drawn to about candles? Have you always been a candle maker, or is this kind of a new, when you were starting out?
So it was totally new for me. I'm a very crafty person in general. Like I can always find a way to create something, or I can see something in a store and be like, I can make that. And that's what I do a lot. And I think I actually have a blog post of this up on our website of kind of how I got started, I guess. I was at the time I was working as a family case manager in inner city Kansas City, and it was really rough. I was also pregnant, so hormones and emotions were everywhere, and I was just worn out. It was the middle of January, and I deal with seasonal depression, so it was even worse at that point. I was sitting in a parking lot waiting for my next appointment because the one before had canceled because I put them back to back, but the one before had canceled. So I was just kind of sitting in a parking lot, and I was like, there has to be something more. There has to be. And I was like, I just want to try this as a hobby and like see what happens. So I started doing a lot of research, and I at the time wasn't being paid very well, of course. And I think I had like $75 left over in my paycheck, and that's what I used to buy my first supplies. Like I started with $75, and like I think about it all the time. It's like I started from that, and now here I am. You know, I go through 30 pounds of wax in a week, like all the time, just from orders. It's just nuts. I never imagined this. You know, I never expected this to happen, and I'm so thankful for it. And at the same time, it like feels surreal all the time. I'm like, this is what I do. Like I have an HGTV career now. Like, oh yeah, I'm a candle maker. I'm sorry, what? Like, it's so funny. It's so funny. People look at me sideways all the time.
But it's such a also an amazing thing to see something that has come to fruition. Like it's that's one thing I love about crafting, starting from just materials and then having a product.
Yes. And like, I feel that way about my scents a lot because as I mentioned before, I curate them. I want something very specific. We also have a line. We have two lines, I guess I should say. The first is a namesake line. So it's actually named after all of my friends and like family that helped me get started. So like they're all named after them, and they all have a story of like why I picked that person. So for example, my friend Royal, she is incredible. Her candle is strawberry and cream scented. It smells like those cream saver candies. So like your grandma probably had. It smells exactly like that. But she's amazing. She actually works with like homeless teens and helps them find resources and things like that. So like I just love focusing on those people. We also did a complete zodiac collection. So those scents are inspired by both people I know of that sign and then also the elements. So they have a lot of really cool elements incorporated into them. So yeah.
Well, and then speaking of the physical product, do you have a location where people can go and purchase, or is it predominantly online?
We are predominantly online. We do have a couple of stores that we do sell in locally in Kansas City, one of which is Phoenix Herb Company. Highly recommend checking them out if you like herbs and metaphysical type stuff. And then we're working on a couple of others that I won't say the name of right now. You can also grab us in Homer's Coffee House in Overland Park, Kansas.
Oh, fun. The coffee shops and candles go hand in hand.
Definitely. They actually grabbed one of our some of our morning hike, which is coffee and pine. So they're a fan of that one.
So, one of your values is obviously eco-friendly. We talked about sustainability and the importance of keeping eco-friendly. What other company goals do you have or mission statement points?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, our whole kind of tagline is good for you and Earth too. Our idea there is connecting self-care and sustainability because I definitely think in the self-care sphere, there's a lot of concept of like disposableness, and we want to kind of combat that and make it to where this is something you can continue to reuse for whatever you'd like, whether you use these vessels after you finish out your candle for cotton rounds or something, like just things you can reuse and that continue to kind of support your self-care journey. That's kind of our whole goal. And then additionally, I joke all the time that we want to be like the natural and eco-friendly sustainable version of Yankee Candle. Because I am really adamant about the natural aspect of our candles and that we are safe for pets, we are safe for babies, we are safe for everyone, whereas that's not always the case with other companies. So that's really my goal, is just providing a safe alternative for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So then, as you were getting started, you said like you started with $75, just getting those beginning stages set up. What advice do you have for other people who are looking to start a business and are at those early stages?
Yeah, so I actually work with a lot of other businesses all the time. I have people come to me all the time like, how did you do this? And I'm like, well, the biggest thing I can say is planning. Plan every single detail, like literally every detail. From the tiniest thing to, like macro details, all of it is important because if you don't have that like kind of hashed out, you're going to have a lot of difficulty of like, okay, well, what do I do now? I made myself, even though it's just been me, I made myself like best practices and standards of practice. And like that helped me so much because it's like, okay, well, how do I approach this? Oh, well, I already figured all that out. It was sort of part of my like business plan, but I didn't really do a business plan, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have people approach me all the time. And now occasionally, like, especially with the holiday season coming up, I have a couple of people who help me out with getting orders packed up and things like that. So it's really helpful to be able to just kind of like show them like, hey, this is the process of how we do this. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they can just follow it along rather than like it just being something in my head and having to explain it. So that's kind of the biggest thing I think is just making yourself like really organized and keeping plans straight and knowing that no matter how small you start, you're still starting. So anything can grow into anything. That's the whole point of possibility. So yeah, anything's a possibility at that point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's so cute in the background. You've got a nice little coworker.
Yes. Sometimes he has his moments.
His moments.
He gets a little sassy sometimes. Yes, you do.
So then, talking about resources, did your area provide anything helpful when you were getting started, whether that be grants or other entrepreneurship resources?
Yeah, so I actually haven't really, everything that I've done has been kind of like bootstrapped, right? Like I haven't really reached out for any grants or any other funding or anything like that. He likes to make faces. I will say there are a couple of this sounds so silly, Facebook groups that have been amazing resources for me. The first of which is actually a more widespread thing called Innovate Hers. Absolutely love that group, and I love those people so much. Additionally, there's a sounds so silly again, another Facebook group called Badass Women Entrepreneurs of Kansas City. Very specific, but it's awesome. Again, so many resources there and connections that I've made that I wouldn't have had anywhere else. And so I'm really thankful for those specifically. But other than that, I've kind of done everything on my own, especially because I started up February 29th of 2020. So about 2 weeks before COVID happened, I guess I should say, like before our first initial lockdown really in Kansas City. So it's been really interesting, like trying to network and things like that. And I've had a ton of Zoom meetings and Google Meet hangouts and things like that. But yeah, so that's kind of the experience I've had community wise. Additionally, where we actually live in Warrensburg, we do our first Friday art walk. So I hang out there a lot. And then I have a lot of support from Warrensburg Main Street, which is a nonprofit organization there. And we do a ton of events for those, like vendor events and craft shows type things. So yeah, that's kind of our extent of community involvement.
Right on. So then, before we kind of close out, I wanted to ask, do you have any final thoughts about advice or anything about your company that you'd like to share?
Just that we're really thankful for this opportunity to chat with you today. We have a lot of really cool things coming up. Our holiday collection will be launching November 5th. So definitely even just join our email list because that'll be sent out and you guys can check those out. We'll send out the sneak peek probably here in probably 3 weeks-ish. Yeah, so it looks like a good timeline. So yeah, definitely check that out for sure.
Awesome stuff. And then how can we reach you? What are your social media handles that we can take a look at?
We're on, of course, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm working on the TikTok. It's kind of laughing right now, but we just moved workspaces again, so I need to like get a whole new setup and everything. But all of those are at Fox Crossing Scent Company, because in addition to candles, we also do room and linen sprays, liquid foaming hand soaps, car fresheners, and we'll have hand sanitizer coming out in October. So eventually I'm going to expand to laundry detergent and all kinds of other stuff too. So we're scents for your entire home. That is for sure. But yeah, so all of our handles are Fox Crossing Scent Company. And then our website, of course, is just foxcrossingscentcompany.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. That is all the time we have for today. So thank you again for sharing about your story and how you're helping your community. So thanks again, and we will see you all next time in the Spotlight.